In 1956, a very precocious 18-year-old girl spotted a handsome but awkward young man across a crowded room at a party and pointed him out to her friends. See that one? I think he's a virgin. And I'm going to change that. And she did. Halfway around the world, in Kodiak, Alaska, a 19-year-old Marine sat on the edge of his bed, struggling with grief and anger, a crumpled letter in his hand. His fiancée had gotten tired of waiting for him to come home. She was breaking things off. 6 weeks after deflowering the handsome young man in Germany, the young woman learned to her chagrin that she was pregnant. She could get an abortion. It wasn't exactly legal, but Mummy's family had money. She'd go to university. She'd get on with her life. Society, art, intellectual conversations, and adventure. But her father, an American military officer, had different ideas, and he made her marry that young man, whom she hardly knew, and soon came to detest. 9 months later, she gave birth to a healthy young boy, but she never really got into motherhood. Somewhere around the time she became pregnant with her third child, the young Marine, now 23, was invited on a double date by a friend. He spent the evening rudely ignoring his date because he was fascinated with the vivacious, gorgeous, 15-year-old fiancée of his friend. He wasted no opportunity over the next couple of months mentioning to his friend the word cradle robber, and also the potential legal implications of sleeping with an underage girl. When his friend abruptly broke things off with that young woman, this young man drove directly to her mother's house, and said, "Ma'am, I'd like to date your daughter. I have a 19-year-old daughter. I'm not interested in that one." Soon thereafter, that little spitfire was telling her sister, "I'm going to get pregnant and make that man marry me." And she did. Of course, the man was mad about her. From the moment he'd seen her, he had determined to marry her, and he wanted to have 4 or 5 children. That didn't happen. They did get married. They had a daughter, and 3 years later, a son. They did not live exactly happily ever after. By the time her children were 6, she had lost interest. She loved babies and toddlers and little children she could dress up and show off. She wasn't really fond of children. Besides, her energies were completely consumed in trying to please her husband and survive. Meanwhile, the other woman had 2 more children, all of them a dreadful burden, especially after her husband divorced her. Someone asked her once, "Why did you have all those children when you don't even like children?" "Oh, but I love being pregnant," she said. "Everybody's so nice. They give me things and do things for me." This is the story of 2 abortions that didn't happen. The story of 7 children who came into the world who wouldn't have if they had. 2 women whose lives foundered on men's rules and under the rule of men. It's the story of a woman who thought she had choices when she didn't, and another one who thought she was calling all the shots. But she was calling them in a world where women, in fact, had very few choices. Both of these women were very intelligent, energetic, headstrong. They had artistic talents and exceptional looks. But they lived in a world where they could not so much as have a credit card in their own name, let alone birth control, without their husband's permission. This is the story of 2 abortions that didn't happen. I'm one of them. I'm happy to be here. But if I wasn't, the world at large wouldn't be any worse for it, and I wouldn't care. Every woman has a right to meaningful choices. Let's make sure that continues to happen, shall we?